Over time, you've built a £25 million property portfolio. I've seen you do a couple little tours. I've seen some tennis courts, seen some swimming pools, seen a lake.
I've got a couple of properties of tennis courts. I've just bought a plot of land. It's just a cute deal. It's nothing special.
How big is it?
52 acres. It's not stunting. Many property guys can't do that. This is achievable. I've been knocked. If he's watching, God, he will know it's him.
Where do you stand on the argument at a certain point in time it doesn't always make sense to own where you live?
I disagree with that.
Do you?
This is such an interesting conversation. For me, it's complete ownership. And I'll explain the reason why.
And we are back for another episode of the PBK podcast. As you know, each and every week, we bring you a special guest to talk about all things business and property. Today, we have Antoine Dixon Bellot. How you doing?
Kaz, good to be here, man.
We finally got you on.
I know we've been flirting for a long time. Our schedules.
They've not, you know what I mean?
Listen, we've finally done it, and I'm really happy to be here, bro. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Finally got you here. So a lot of you, in terms of the social space, we know Antoine as, you know, owner of a country manor, swimming pools, tennis courts, living a good life, multiple fancy cars. But like, you know, obviously people see all of that, but they don't get to know the real you. And although you have all these nice things, where they came from. So for those that are not as familiar, what's your actual background? So
my background's in the film originally. So I've come through traditional education system, got a couple of degrees in like post-production and TV and broadcast. Didn't really get me where I wanted to be in terms of aspirationally, but it got me into the industry, entry level. And then I went into ownership. So bit by bit, I founded facility companies, started with a production company. So I'm notorious in music videos. Probably every single artist that's relevant over a period of 10 years, I've probably produced their music video. Lots internationally as well. That production company led into me looking at lines in the budget that realized that if I was to own additional facilities, then it would be more prudent in the respect of the P&L. So bit by bit, went into other facilities. So from owning commercial film studios to camera and lighting rental house, to camera lens manufacturing, which is extremely niche. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, so it kind of became a bit of a production umbrella. And that's basically how it started in terms of my career in the world was in film.
What I think's interesting about that is you touched on obviously that horizontal integration. You started a business that really works, then you realize how you can integrate other businesses into it that are complementary. And I guess that's how you know, when you often hear the tagline, all millionaires have 7 streams of income. Yeah. What do you think about that sort of sentiment, that saying?
It depends. I mean, some people can hit really well in one aspect and just do well. They've got like a unicorn industry or a unicorn moment where that does so good and it streams all of the revenue that they need. That for me, it's not hedging on other options or being more creative in terms of being like business acumen wise. But you can do that. Some people they own a restaurant and they kill it, or some people own a trainer brand. But for me, it's a bit about diversity and multiple income streams. That was always my motivation anyway, especially in the passive income world, which obviously property has a lot to do with.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we're definitely, for those, I know that we're a property-based podcast, so we're going to get to the property, but sometimes we can't put, you know what I mean, the horse before the cart. We got to get to how we got there and how we built. So in that industry, because even creating camera lenses, that sounds very niche. What inspired you to get into that space?
Again, looking at my production budget and seeing how much money I'm spending on a camera package or camera lenses, or the value of a proper set of camera lenses. Like most people don't understand. We're not talking about stills cameras on a Canon 5D, or we're talking about cine lenses. So like you get, for example, prime lenses are a lens that are one focal length, right? They don't zoom. It's one fixed image size. And you get a set of lenses in the cine world that can range from £15,000 for a set to £350,000 for a set, which like that, right?
Right. So even that's a proper handle with care moment.
That's an understatement. So you know, so you've got that world. So camera, and also camera lenses are if not the only or one of the only pieces of equipment in film that can appreciate rather than depreciate. With technology and cameras and stuff, they always depreciate in value, but some camera lenses actually appreciate in value, or worst case, pretty much hold their value. So in terms of an asset, they're very, very tangible in terms of it being sold, but also they can be an investment too. So for me, it was something I wanted to go down for those reasons.
Nice. I think obviously like being able to spot an issue in your industry that, okay, like this is a problem where we're overspending, is a lot of the time where the best business ideas come from. They come from your pain points, right?
Absolutely.
Of being like, bro, I remember what I just paid this man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never again.
Yeah. Well, remember in life, you always need a why. So everybody needs a why in whatever it is that you're doing, whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to make money, whether you want to be healthy. Like my why was, I'm seeing this top line and I'm seeing this bottom line and they're doing that. How do I make it? So that was for me something that I've always, and I spoke about this in other interviews. What I did wasn't extra. It was maybe extraordinary in terms of its implementation, but not in the thought. It's common sense. You're a producer. You have a budget. You spend all of your individual budget lines are from talent to crew to equipment to location to insurance to catering, art department. They're all broken down. Your kit line sticks out like a sore thumb. Why would you not want to own equipment that you can then build to your production company? For me, it's common sense. Maybe to others, it isn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people often overcomplicate business a lot of the time and think you've got to reinvent the wheel or make something brand new. But like if we look at the property space, one thing that's really popular at the moment is like rent to serviced accommodation. And as people scale, I always say, like, how can you integrate businesses? You pay your cleaners how much?
Yeah.
Why not set up a cleaning company?
Absolutely.
Reduce your own variable costs, and then actually offset them entirely by using those full-time cleaners to do other roles.
Absolutely.
So make it, rather than a cost, make it something that's going to build in further income to the business.
It's exactly the same ethos. Exactly the same. Like, as you said, it's about looking at the budget, taking your time and looking at where the money's going. How can you be efficient? How can you scale? And how can you save and make money?
Nice. What was your first property you bought?
Gosh, this was the first property I ever bought was like a property in Edmonton. It was it was a house, but it wasn't an investment property.
Yeah.
It was a property that I lived in North London. I bought it like from a distressed vendor, but it wasn't an in and out opportunity. I bought it because I wanted to just get on the ladder.
Yeah.
And this is something that's really interesting that you asked that question, because the hat that I had when I bought that property was just the general consensus of, let me own a home without thinking too much about the exit or the business side of it, even if it was somewhere I was going to live. So that was a property in Edmonton. But in terms of the first investment property, which was shortly after, it was a apartment in Kent, distressed vendor, low lease. And
do you think that a lot of the time, even though you said it was somewhere for you to live in, you mentioned both of them were kind of distressed vendors, which for those who are not familiar means maybe somebody who has to sell quickly. When you have to sell quickly, prices are always that bit more negotiable.
Yeah.
I guess they were still, maybe didn't view it as an investment, but you always wanted a good deal.
Correct.
And I think a lot of the time people really complicate property like it's really different from any other business or any other asset class. If you buy at the right price,
exactly,
it's rule number one, right?
Yeah, buy at the right price. And then whatever work you're doing, do that at the right price too, whether it be a build or a renovate, do that at the right price. And it's a simple numbers game. You can't go wrong. And then hopefully appreciation will be your added bonus. Because for example, with the first property I bought, which was the house and the terrace freehold in Edmonton, this just weirdly, well, not weirdly, but I didn't do anything for it to grow in the price that it did. So just to give you a rough example, I bought that for like 325 grand. The asking price was probably 375. That was asking. He probably could have got 350 for it. I negotiated it down to 325, right? So it wasn't really anything special savings wise, but it was something. Okay, it was a token. Probably got 25, 30k off. And I think today it's worth, and this is without doing any work, 450, 460. So it's done over 100 grand. It's done 6 figures in 7 years. That's without doing anything.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So, and as you understand, if it was developed, you'd have had a much higher value. So the appreciation aspect in property, as you well know, is tremendous if you buy at the right price.
Yeah. Where do you stand on, because a lot of people at the moment are talking, particularly around London, and saying like they don't think prices can continue moving over time. They argue that, property prices sort of double every X number of years. Where do you stand on London property prices? Do you think they've reached a ceiling price, or do you think they're going to continue to grow?
No. What will always happen in property is it will hit a ceiling, then it will drop, then it will hit a ceiling, then it will drop. But that ceiling will keep increasing. And every time it drops, it allows the barrier to entry to be lower so people can get back in, and the cycle will continue. I think it's like every 13 to 14 years or 13 to 17 years that you have a big drop for whatever reason. Some world event happens or national event and it drops down again considerably. You could be looking at 15-20% drops, but there'll be an event, right? And then you get back in again. So I think it will always continue to go up, personally.
Yeah, I think it's like, a lot of people,
but like not not steady. It will drop again and go up. It will always do this. It won't just ascend. Yeah,
there's the argument, like if you look at stuff, in very micro numbers, that it fluctuates quite a bit. But if you kind of look at it more holistically from a further lens, that you can see it steadily increasing.
Yep.
And I think that's where the argument of people that are always trying to time the market, you could get really lucky, and you could you could wait and then be ready to buy at the point in time when prices have dropped. But then what's happened to your money for those 5 years when you 100%. Were sitting on it? What was the inflation during those periods? What could you have done with your money? So I 100%. Think that idea of sort of trying to time the market is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I don't think, agreed. I think when you have the big drops, like a crash, that's something you can't really time unless you're part of that crash. You got to be on an inside magic circle that people that we probably don't know, right? But that, other than that, and that's not anyone really in the world, you're lucky if you time a crash. 2008, we didn't know that was going to happen. Do you see what I mean? So when you look at those type of situations, I don't think anybody can time that. We know it happens over every certain amount of years. That's proven, actually. That's a proven fact. But when it happens exactly is very difficult to know.
No, definitely. Did you grow up around Edmonton?
No, I'm from South London, Southeast.
South London?
Yeah, I'm from Southeast London. Yeah,
and it took you this long to come on my podcast. Nah, I thought South. I thought it was loyal. I thought
no. I'm from the borough of Greenwich, so I'm from those ends. Plumstead.
So what made you decide to move out of London?
Do you know what?
You did the big move.
Yeah, I did.
How big is it? 52.
The country estate.
Yeah, 52.
52 acres. That one. Yeah. So
that's a lot of acres.
But I don't live there. So
okay. So your dab.
Yeah, exactly. But I've got lots of other luxury property in that area, basically.
Okay.
It's within an hour drive from London, so it's not too far in terms of accessibility to getting in for business or entertainment. It's kind of within the M25 circle. So again, in terms of property values, it's not crazy remote, but it feels like it's crazy remote because when you look around, all you see is land, and that's it.
I've seen you do a couple little tours.
Some bits and bobs,
seen some tennis courts, seen some swimming pools, seen a lake. I think got a lot of space over there.
I've got a couple of properties of tennis courts, but it's and the air, bro, the air. Literally, and I'm not saying this just for bants, you can smell the air when you get into your car in London, and you get in, shut the door, drive to that part of Essex, get out the car, smell the air again. It's different. It's actually different.
Have you ever been to Singapore?
No.
That's where I said, "Oh, this is what air. This is how air is supposed to taste."
Wow.
Yeah, it was a different. Are you good at tennis?
I'm not bad. I used to play like Blackheath tournaments and stuff.
Okay.
But in school days. Now I've got a coach and I've got a one-on-one coach and I'm just trying to get my swing back, as it says. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, no, we're gonna see, man. I'm gonna take you up on it. I can play a little tennis, but I play a lot of paddle now. I'm not gonna lie. See, paddle.
I've not played.
It's so good.
Everybody's telling me that I need to try.
You need to give it a go. It's so good. Trust me.
Yeah, I'll try it. Yeah. But when you're in my neck of the woods, I'll give you a game of tennis.
I seen your ads. I see you swimming. I see you swimming.
Yeah.
Little boxing.
Try it. But I used to do. I mean, not on a professional level, but combat sports is something I used to do back in the day, and jiu-jitsu, I won championships for that.
Nice.
So I like to, you know, and you know how it goes. When you get too busy in business, you can neglect a lot of the physical aspects of your life. So I'm just on a bit of a journey to get back into physical sport just for me, bro. Like that's wellness is super important. Like it's something I will always preach to people as well. It's great to be successful in business and monetarily, but the real wealth is within yourself. It's the things that don't cost money. You know, it's the things that keep you on this earth. So it's something that I definitely want to promote as well, is that that's where the real wealth is, you know?
Ah, that's good. That's good. With that property, because did you buy that property as an investment property, as a residential property? What was the structure of that one?
It was investment, basically. Okay. So that, again, that was distressed vendor and distressed property, and many say that estate was bought on, might as well be the Black Friday, because it should never have happened, if I'm being honest. But as they say, what's meant for you is meant for you, right? So it, maybe it was luck, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? You have to ask the universe.
Yeah, there's something I always say around luck. Like, luck doesn't happen on your sofa. Luck happens by being out there and being busy. The
saying goes, luck is when preparation makes opportunity. Meets opportunity. When preparation meets opportunity equals luck.
And what's your plans? I know I've seen you got like a number of outhouses there. A lot of the property is still quite distressed, that you're working on it. What's your long-term goals for that place? Thank you to those of you who have liked, shared, commented, but most importantly, subscribed to the channel. Did you know only 28% of people that regularly watch my videos have subscribed? Now we're trying to get that to 40% so we can bring on bigger and better guests and make better content for you. So if you could do that right now, myself and my team would really appreciate it. Now back to the video.
So the plan was, with that estate, as I said, there's like 17 outbuildings. You've got the main mansion, which was the crown jewel. Then you've got various bits of land. So when I bought the estate, there was planning permission existing for certain aspects of development already that had already been started but wasn't finished. So I was able for me to, because it had already been underway, it hadn't lapsed in that respect. So I was able to build a second road into the estate with big grander entrance. I put infrastructure lighting all throughout most of the estate, so big lampposts everywhere. The main mansion itself, I'd got planning permission to put an east and west wing, so I built that. A lot of people don't know that. I connected the swimming pool spa building was an outbuilding, and as you know, outbuildings are not worth as much in the scheme of value, in the scale of evaluation, due to the fact that the price per square foot is not the same. So I linked the spa building to the main house, which then made the spa building. It became part of the original footprint, which then means that the price per square foot in the spa is the same as the house, because it's now the house. You with me?
Yeah.
So lots of things I did on the planning in that respect. Stripped the house back to pretty much plaster. It wasn't listed, which people find mesmerizing. Yeah. So for that reason, I was able to pretty much have creative carte blanche, get in there and do everything again from scratch. That was the first stage. Got the new valuation, huge uplift. I think it was just under £3.5 million uplift alone. And then that was stage one. Refinanced, took some of that money and continued infrastructure. So like extending the event hall. There's a huge equestrian facility in the estate that's, again, was already started and now continuing on to turn these stables into accommodation units, to be able to sleep lots of people for events. So, it's ongoing, man. It's a
big work in progress over there.
It's ongoing. Yeah.
So that's really interesting, everything that you're doing over there. Over time, I've heard you said you've built a £25 million property portfolio.
Yeah, circa, probably a bit more.
Bit more now. Bit more, maybe my Gastic Pizza stats people. They're a couple years behind. But obviously with your recent investment, with like I said, a lot of people know you from just bought cars, bought a country estate. Why was now, or over the last couple of years, the time where you said really that level of investment into stuff for yourself? Have you gone sort of harder with that?
What in terms of what? Sorry, in terms of investment or me coming out?
More you coming out in a more public profile as well.
I think I underestimated the responsibility that I have as a person that's come from a person that looks like me in a country that looks like it does to come from a working class background with a single parent in South London, to be able to show and prove to everybody else that there is a way out of hardship, there's a way out of a certain mentality, there is a way out of poverty, there is a way to provide options for yourself and create generational wealth and make something of yourself. And it was me not keeping me to myself, which in many ways is quite selfish. And it's like giving people access to what I'm doing. It's not stunting. I hold back many of the things I'm doing. So what you see is not all. It's what I'm deciding to show, but there is more. So it's not a question of to gloat. It's this is achievable, you know. And there's a quote that I keep quoting that I spontaneously came up with at a private bank meet, and I was asked a question on the spot, and I've now gone with it as a thing that I'm associating to what I say. If it has been done, it can be done, and that's something that if everybody has that mentality and that mindset, how can you not achieve what you're meant to be able to achieve?
That's really interesting. Going back into property, as someone who was very successful in business or is very successful in business, owning multiple companies, like creating products, like building brands, why is investing in property still important to you?
Legacy, security, tangibility, creativity, and just complete passive income. Like I said, to me, property is a cheat sheet to life. To me, that's how I choose to look at it. When you have a property that pays you money every single month, that you don't have to work to get paid and appreciates, how is that not a cheat sheet? Do you see what I mean? And then the only missing link, I guess people are going to ask that are watching this, is how do you get to acquire these assets? And that's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why you got the statistics of who has property and why. Are you with me? Again, something I talk about at the masterclass on Saturday, the 21st of September.
Okay, no, so
but yeah,
we're gonna get the people down there.
Yeah.
So, do you enjoy investing in property?
I love it.
Yeah. What do you enjoy about it?
I get a buzz out of getting my money back. That's what it is. It's not. It's the process too, but it's the recycling of the revenue. It's what I call the boomerang investment, as known as you know, BRRR, right? I love to send my money out and receive it back again and retain the asset. That for me, it's just a buzz for me. I love it.
When you came in today, I was like asking, how's the week going? You were like, between sites at the moment. What projects are you currently working on?
So at the moment, continuing the development of the country estate. We've got the 10 luxury apartments in Essex that are probably 4 or 5 months away from completion, and that will be a refinance strategy.
Talk to me about that deal. So was that a conversion or a new build?
No, it was it's new build. It was an old warehouse that got squashed. We were lucky enough to build off the foundations. We've gone timber frame. Okay. So in terms of the way I put the numbers together to make it stack, we've approached it in a certain way. But it's a complete new build. We've gone from, other than the footings that already existed, we've gone from DPC, from the damp.
Yeah. Okay. And with a deal like that, for a lot of people that, you know, it sounds, like you said, very almost far away. Just kind of give us some like the internal mechanics of a deal like that. Like how much money do you have to secure the site? What do you hope for the GDV to be? What's the sort of numbers on that?
Well, obviously with development finance, it works a bit differently to your bridging and your mortgages. So development finance, the actual banks, as you know, they fund your actual development work in arrears most of the time. But you also need to have some money down as a deposit, which is normally to invest in the land or the building that you're going to be doing the development on. So that could be anything from a 25 to 40% deposit. It all depends on how it stacks and how the bank view it, the stress testing, and it depends how much you put down. I mean, in my particular case, I spent 600 grand on the warehouse. Again, for those that don't understand, the warehouse wasn't worth 600 grand by itself. The warehouse was worth 600 grand with the planning permission for the 10 luxury apartments. So that's how you make additional money. So the person obviously got an uplift on the planning approval. That's something that I like to do. I don't like to speculate with option agreements for planning. I like planning.
Fully consented schemes.
That's
you
my
want to be able
thing.
to get in and go.
Yeah. It's a time thing. I don't like to speculate. So I like to work numbers off of what exists. Again, each to their own. You can make more money when you're signing options with landowners. You make a lot more money on the uplift. But that for me, there's lots of reasons why. We'll go into it another time. But I put 30% down on that 600 grand asset, and the rest has been financed. Obviously, you have to be able to cash flow the project.
Yeah.
So when you're putting down 50, 60, 70, 80 grand per stage, you have to have that money in order to get it back.
But I think what's very interesting is it's all about leverage, because I think you said sort of target GDV for that site is in excess of 4 million.
No. That's a much smaller project.
2.5 million. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
that's 2.5 million. But even with 2.5 million, if you're saying you put down 200,000, obviously you're going to need some of the money to pay for the works they're going to pay you in arrears.
I'll tell you the breakdown on this. I haven't even gone through this on my own stuff yet, so you hear it first.
Yeah.
But it was a £600,000 purchase acquisition. My build is approximately, we're looking at about 1.1 million. That's including contingency. It's very tight, but I've got strategies as to how to bring construction costs down. There's some things I'll say and some things I won't at this moment, but there's really, really cute ways to bring your construction costs down. So 1.1 million, so that's a 1.7 all in. The interest from the bank is probably about 100 grand interest over the period of the scheme. So you're looking at 1.8 million, and that's a GDV of 2.5. So it's a circa 700 grand uplift in profit. And I think, obviously gross profit.
And I think what's really important to look at is, like people look at numbers sometimes, but I think we have to really always focus on percentages as well, because unfortunately, at any stage, your capital is not unlimited. So any money spent somewhere is money you can't spend somewhere else. So your ROIs are really important. And also annualized ROIs, how long are you going to be in a deal?
Absolutely.
If you're putting in, for argument's sake, 200 plus some fees, 250 up front, then you're maybe saying, okay, I'm going to fund my work in arrears and I'm going to get them in tranches of 100,000. It means you need 350 to do the deal, which by no stretch is a small amount of money. But if you can make 700,000, you're making a 200% ROI if you can be in and out in 12 months.
But again, this is where angel investors come in. And this is why when I say to people, you need capital for property, I'm not going to ever say you don't need capital. I mean, again, it depends. If you're doing rent to rent, it's different. But if you're talking about acquisition, then you need capital. But I didn't say it has to be your capital. Right? You could have an angel investor and the bank. Then all of a sudden you're the brain, but you're not the equity. So there are ways that you can still finance these deals if you find investors that are or developers with cash that you can bring them to the table. If you did a JV with them and they put the bread up, then you've just made them maybe 350,000, which is double their money. If they're putting in 350. Are you with me? So there are so many ways to skin the cat. You can be creative.
No, definitely.
But you must be an expert. If you're not an expert, how can you bring an angel to the table? A, to make sure that they're convinced that you know what you're talking about, and B, how are you going to make sure that you return their money? Because if that deal goes bad, you're done.
I think that's where people have to be very careful, that it's fine to raise funds. It's fine, to use other people's money, but not just because you just really want to get rich. It's like, well, it's not my money, so I'll take risks. I think you have to be at a point where you said you are an expert, you are bringing something to the table, you do know how to deliver. And I think when we had Anthony Leville on once, he was talking about, we were talking about deals and it's very chicken and egg. And this thing was, look, like, if you find a great deal, like finding a good deal is the hard part. Once you find a good deal, there's going to be a load of people that will bite your hand off to get them.
Because it's a simple numbers game after that. But as you said, you got to find the right deal at the right price. And other than that, I've just bought a plot of land. Again, it's just a cute deal. It's nothing special. It's a plot of land with planning permission for 4 apartments, a GDV of about £1 million.
Nice.
So yeah, it's cool.
Well, it's nice. I think it's good, particularly as you're transitioning a lot more into the development space. You know, it's always good to stay active, get involved. How involved are you in the process?
It depends on the projects.
Yeah.
I've tried to be hands off.
No, but I've seen you with a hard hat on.
It doesn't work so well because remember, especially when you're dealing with other people's money, the bank in this case, it's corporate finance, right? In this particular case, the bank, I'm answerable to the bank. It's not my contractor or my subcontractor. It's me. It's me that has to sign on the dotted line. Plus, in some development finance deals, I might add, you actually have to do a partial PG, a personal guarantee. So in my particular apartment deal, that's at 25% of the GDV. I've had to PG it. So that's not a joke. You know,
no.
It's not a joke. You know, so it makes you be on point because it's on me. I'm liable, and really the contractor only cares about getting his invoices paid, and so do all the third party contractors. So I have to be on point, but also it gives me the opportunity to learn and evolve and to teach as well. And I think that's what's good about, maybe a little bit more unique about what I do. Rather than just understanding the aspects of property strategy and finance and BRR, I'm very, very well versed in construction. Like I can explain the entire process from building a house from scratch to finish. Many property guys can't actually do that. Like, will construct. I'll have a conversation with your builder from start to finish, which assists in due diligence and making sure I'm not getting ripped off. And there's something that I always try to encourage is understanding the build process. So when you're receiving quotes, you know that these quotes are accurate, whether it be price per square meter or price job or day job, what are the day rates, cost of materials, how you go about the purchase of those materials. So there's lots of things that you need to understand in order to make sure that you really get a good deal.
What do you find most difficult in delivering a development?
Staying on schedule. unforeseen delays and building control issues, or we need to do a change of variation on planning, or something that is unforeseen. You know, planning for the things that you know are going to happen, but you don't know when they're going to happen. I would say my current project is delayed at the moment. It should have been finished at the beginning of the year. So it's a year delayed. Cost me a lot of money and interest as a result, but it is what it is. And that's something that also as well, I'd like to tell people to build a contingency into their appraisals to be able to take into account that delays might happen, and delays cost money in property.
No, massively. And there's a lot of people that can delay you. That's why I think we end up being quite moany as a people. We're like, the solicitors, the lender,
let's not talk about conveyancers. Let's not talk about conveyancers. I only hire conveyancers that respond to me within 24 hours by email. I've had in the past conveyancers, I send an email, a week later they respond to my inquiry. I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
We spoke. I do feel like for what they have to do in terms of, they've got to read, like, obviously these PDF versions of leases from 50 years ago back to front. I think realistically, in terms of modernizing the industry, we've got to really say, okay, look, if we want convenience in every other walk of life, you pay for the convenience. But I think it's about managing expectations. If I say, look, this is what I want, you tell me what it's going to cost. I can't ever say yes or no.
At the beginning. Don't rope me in and then put me on the shelf. 100%. I agree.
I get that. Who do you find hardest to find a good, like everyone's thinking, I find in the property space, like what contact or expert is it you found you sort of struggle to find a good one?
Builders were my problem. That was my issue. A good builder is always in demand because they don't rip people off, which means they get repeat business all the time. So part of my model, again, this is much more at a higher level, when people get there, and it goes back to what we discussed earlier on about the film industry acquisition of the kind of ecosystem of ownership, and the example that you gave as well. I've got like five full-time multi-traders that work for me on salary. And if they're not building, they're doing maintenance, because there's a lot of properties. So they're all over the Kent, Essex, London. That's their triangle. So that helps keep certain costs down. Obviously, some things I need subbies. If I've got roofers, that's a separate liability. So we've got
roofers are my gripe.
Really?
Roofers are my gripe.
I've got a great roofer.
You might have, do you know what? I have them, but it's like you have a roofer, but because you don't use them all the time, you always need them in an emergency.
Yeah. And
then they're always busy.
Yes. Yeah. And I got some good guys.
You don't can't have him, buddy. Or her. You don't can't have him or her.
Not until you come onto the masterclass, and I'll give you the details for free.
Okay. But that is, in terms of sometimes what people get out of, whether it be mentorship, masterclasses, and various other group structures, it's not always just I need you to do everything for me. Sometimes it's just I need your contacts.
Yeah.
I need the people that you've had to go through. Yeah. Like you've kissed all the frogs to give me give me the prince.
Absolutely.
And just give me the direct link to the people that are good.
Listen, I've been knocked and this is something that people, again, I don't really talk about. Not because I don't want to talk about it. I probably will actually at some point. But I've been knocked a couple of times, twice in particular, by two builders before I had my dream team. And not to mention, by the way, I'm not saying that the only way you can do well in construction is by having your own staff, because again, you have to be able to cash flow that. So I'm not saying that that's what you do. You just have to be diligent. But unfortunately, as you said, you've got to kiss some frogs. I had one particular builder, obviously for legal reasons, I'm not able to disclose that person. But if he's watching, God, he will know it's him. And I got knocked for it's not crazy money. It was like 50 grand, right? And you should have seen the work he did. I was so inexperienced. So my due diligence was not what it was today. It was one of my earlier things I did in probably 2018. We're talking about...
But you learn from pain, right?
We're talking about, for example, right, the type of cowboy builder stuff he did. This is just for bants. Rather than... And this is from an early stage in construction, not new build, but in terms of the conversion. As you know, cables ideally should be chased, right? We're talking about surface mounted cables in trunking, wonky. They weren't even straight trunking. Yeah. It was diagonal trunking down a line.
You got away lightly.
Dude, listen, that's an example.
No, I'm supposed to have a rewire in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Again, this was early. So you know, like the ability
You're feeling it out. You're feeling it out.
I'm 23.
Yeah, okay.
Doing my rewire. This was something that I kept. It's only when I've gone back, like, I don't know, like a year later. Yeah. I've seen there's just crazy extension leads connected under plimps and stuff like that. I said, but I think that's the importance at an early stage of actually just not being too trusting and being like, because you can do something I can't do, you must be doing it well. Yeah. You've really got to be around. Like, if you can, and obviously it's not everyone's got the flexibility, but if you can be on site, if you can ask why are you doing it this way to everything, and force people to answer
something I remind my children all the time: no question is a dumb question. All questions are smart questions, because you find the answer. Even if you should know the answer, you still get the answer. How can you not ask a question? And as the saying goes, assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. So don't assume anything, especially when it's costing you thousands of pounds. And again, this is some of the beauty of what people like yourself and I can do for people that are getting into the game. We've made the mistakes. You shouldn't have to do it. If someone can say, hey, stop, don't go that way, turn around, go around that way. Because why should we want everybody to lose 50 grand like me? I mean, I was fortunate enough that didn't crush me. But had I been another person in a different position, that could have finished me off. Yeah. And it could have been so damaging to me emotionally. Who knows what my circumstances could have been, you know? Who knows whether I would never go near property again. Who knows where I'd lose my home. So it's very, very sensitive when people lose any amount of money, you know, no matter how relative it is. But if we can do our best to explain to people about taking your time, speed without direction is dangerous. So really take your time and to learn and absorb and to research and to do your due diligence and to do comparables and to get testimonies. Take your time. The saying that Rome wasn't built in a day exists for a reason.
Yeah.
You know?
We're talking of building and legacy and where you want to get to. With the property space, like where are your next moves? What are your goals within property over the next, say, 5 years, for example?
More in and outs, because it's just common sense. Again, it's not about a trajectory thing for me. If that was the case, I'd be doing 30, 40 million pound GDVs. I just do what comes, what feels natural without me having to compromise too much of my life. I still have a very good like family life with social life, and the work to life balance has to be important, especially as we discussed earlier on about health. It's important. So it's not about going crazy and burning the candle at both ends. It's about making sure that I have everything I do has to be money in, money out, period. That's it. And whatever those deals are, they'll present themselves. Again, like overseas property isn't for me. I don't understand it. If I don't understand it properly and I'm not completely certain that I'm going to in and out my money, or I haven't the due diligence that I've spent years doing in London and surrounding counties, I don't want to have to go and do years due diligence in another country to understand how that mechanism works and then take L's like I did the first couple of years in England.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll stick to what I know, but do more and because it's just easier and easier.
Yeah, and I think specialization is massively important. Like once you get good at something, if it worked on that road, there's going to be X amount of roads in your area. All of those roads are going to have so many houses.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
You know? But again, I advocate. I'm an apartment block guy.
Yeah.
I don't really like single dwellings. But again, that's because of the scale I'm on. But single dwellings are great to get into. Great to get into. But I'm an apartment block guy because I like the multiple.
I just think it's for me, it's just percentages and numbers. Like you could, whether it be a £50,000 house somewhere in Liverpool, or do you know what I mean? Like you touched on, like a 10, 15 million pound development. Like, what's my ROI?
That's right.
Effectively,
am I going to get my money back, or is it trapped?
Yeah,
exactly. And again, there's different strategies. So it's not about what is a good deal and what is a bad deal. Everybody has a different reason for wanting to get into property. People come to me and ask me questions that I always say the wrong questions. I say to them, what do you want to achieve? Most of my DMs are filled with, can you help me? Okay. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to just have some property that you don't want to rent for any reason? Well, why don't you want to rent? What is it that you don't like about renting? So I like to inquire so I can give the best advice, because it's not a one size fits all in property. As you know, there are so many different ways of making money, recycling money, approaching with different strategies, that you need to know what that person wants to achieve. I've had people say to me, I want passive income, as much of it as possible. I've only got this much money, or I've got this much money and I want to have this much of a portfolio. So I will give them completely different advice based on what they want to achieve. And then they'll either be able to do that within their means, or they'll work towards it.
Yeah, I think understanding your own needs is the starting point for any question.
Absolutely.
Before you start delving into strategies.
Otherwise, I'm telling them what I do, and that might not be what they want to do.
Where do you stand on the argument, which I think comes up quite a lot, at a certain point in time, it doesn't always make sense to own where you live?
I disagree with that.
Do you?
This is such an interesting conversation. You know that this is gurus are on the fence.
Yeah.
They're on the fence with this. For me, it's complete ownership.
Yeah.
Complete. And I'll explain the reason why. It's simple. The only way you would rent something amazing. There was a particular property guru that mentioned this on his socials the other day. I don't want to start. I don't want to start. But and he spoke about why live in something in 5 to 10 or 15 or 20 years, or you might not even be able to make that money if you can just rent it now. And I'm like, well, again, my philosophy is very different. Sometimes I think you should work towards something, for it being more tangible. When you rent, someone can evict you, especially if it's a family home. What if you got children and they go to a certain school in a catchment area? You can get evicted if you get served a Section 21, right? Then you've got or any other section, depending on the circumstances, right? Then you've got a situation that you're renting because that model stacks for the landlord.
Yeah.
So you're basically financing his business model. That's 2. 3, you can't capital appreciate anything that you rent. So I've got property that I've not done anything to, but the capital appreciation has been so cool that years later I've refinanced and took money out. That can't happen on a if you're renting.
I think, and I'll give you the other side of the coin, and you can let me know what you think about this. So I think it's interesting. I think at a starting point, you should probably, if possible, like buy your first home, because cheapest use of capital, personal sort of residential mortgage, a lot of benefits for it at that point, and 10% deposit means your leverage, your money goes a lot further. I think at a certain point, in terms of property prices, when you get, I'd probably say over 1.5 million, maybe a little bit more, as a residential home, a lot of people, you know, tax efficient, as self-employed, can only get a certain mortgage. The level of funds they would have to leave in their own home means that if you can get a mortgage of 600,000 and got somewhere for 1.6 million, you've got £1 million of equity, which is great sitting in your property. But the way in which that's leveraged means that you've only owned 1.6 million worth of assets, as opposed to saying, like, you know what, let me rent somewhere of the same standard. My monthly overheads are the same. However, I'm able to, through leverage at 25%, deposits or 75% loan to value, I'm able to control a wider pool of assets. I think if you get to a certain point where you don't...
Are you talking about buying a residential... So is your example based on buying a residential asset where your money's in the property?
Yeah. And I think that is the case for a lot of people who are emerging millionaires.
Yeah, but I've heard property gurus that preach in and out revenue, so BRRs, that still tell people to rent, because they're talking about taking the money and boomeranging the money in your investment property so you can keep going, and as you said, building a bigger cumulative pool of property. But why not do the same thing with your residential house? So then it's free anyway.
I think with the residential house, your ability to boomerang and exit is dependent on income.
Yes.
So that is the bit that kind of, I think, gets some people stuck at points.
So therefore, it's not a question of choice. It's a question of what you have to do.
Yeah.
Because it's proposed as you should do this rather than should do that. Yeah. So the question is being posed as if it's a choice, not as if it's a restraint. They're completely different things. If you can't refinance because of your limit to your earn to borrow ratio, then you can't. It's not an option. So the argument is destroyed. We're talking about whether you have the option and the ability to do so. Would you do X or would you do Y? And that's a different question. And I'm saying, of course you would own. I've got a couple of properties on residential, and every property I've ever had that's a residential property, my money's come out of it. I look at my residential properties as investment properties. Okay, they don't cash flow, but I've got no money in.
Yeah,
that money that comes out goes into investment properties that do what? Pay my mortgage, my residential mortgage. So my house is free because the mortgage I'm actually paying, which is a liability, is being serviced by the money that I took in, took out, reinvested into property, and now cash flows my personal residential mortgage.
Yeah.
It's free. And it capitally appreciates. But if I rented it, it wouldn't even do that. I'd just be paying someone else's mortgage.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great about, obviously, property. We spoke about strategies, that there's always going to be different answers to multiple questions, and a lot of them are going to be very circumstance based. I think we've heard a lot of information for people that want to now connect with you. Obviously, we've heard some great answers that want to find out more. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, obviously, my Instagram, which hopefully will be on the handle of this. And I've got obviously the Mentor Academy. is being launched at the moment. The portal is completely finished. But
have you got a link you can send us that we can include?
I'll give you that link. But most importantly, or the most imminent method of kind of property experience and knowledge and conversations is my new property mansion masterclass that's being conducted on Saturday, the 21st of September. And that is basically to talk about all things property, go for a lot of my deals. And the reason why we're breaking my deals down in the masterclass is that, again, I am aware that people see a lot of my stuff and being like, God almighty, he's an anomaly. Like was one or two of those guys. Well, there doesn't have to be. And I started very humbly, and I accumulated in stages. And that's what I want to break down and explain to people at the masterclass. Yes, you can own mansions and multiple apartment blocks around the country, but you can start here, but this is how you can scale. And that's what I want to be able to explain to people so they don't see my acquisitions as superhuman, right? And then introduce the experts and my dream team, the people I have around me that help me in securing finance deals, efficient tax savings of accountants, my conveyancers that are amazing with like the asking the right questions in terms of the inquiries and protecting me and the asset.
24-hour response rate?
In terms of
24, the conveyancers.
Absolutely 24-hour response. You know, so there's all these people around me that help me become successful. And as you know, it's a team effort. I might be the face of something, but there's a much bigger machine around me, and they're all part of it. And that's something that we'll be presenting these people to break down all of the various aspects of property that basically make up all of this success.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you coming on today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure obviously do all that good stuff, like, subscribe, comment. Obviously all the details are going to be in the description. So if you do want to connect with Antoine, they're going to be there. In the comment section, also let me know who you think is going to win if we play tennis. I know paddle's not fair because, I'm a pro. However, tennis, we'll make sure that we lock it in, we find a date, and we'll get that done. And we'll catch you next week for another great episode.